Hello, this is Brenda Bates, Medicine Woman, and this is Medicine Woman Revealed. Tonight with me is
Jen Toffel, Medicine Woman.
And with me is
Scott Bates, Brenda's husband.
He hasn't figured out what he is. He just don't like to be called the apprentice, apparently. So it's funny, as I was looking in the
I'll
chat
be the
room.
journeyman now.
The journeyman, okay. Looking in the chat room, and it says, Jen is typing in the chat room. Hello, everybody. And then it doesn't look right, but it says, blame it on Uranus. It's slowing down to go to direct to tomorrow. So that's why Jen's doing it. So we'll just start off with a great show. Okay, as always, we have a great show. Whoever wants to call in, call in. We love doing readings. We love doing all that wonderful stuff. And if you are just listening and going, yeah, but I can't find the phone number, well, that's okay. We'll tell you. Jen, what is the phone number?
914 area code 338 1346.
And so now you have the phone numbers. You can call in. You can ask for a general question or ask a question about life. Why is life showing up the way it is, or however you want to do it. So, like I said, I started on my dissertation again, and because my other one is in my book. Like I said, I would have never wrote it probably if I wrote my book if Spirit said just write your book. I wouldn't have known where to begin, any of that stuff. So anyway, I have gotten 28 pages now, and the rest of it is just doing the conclusion and the summary, so the findings are all done. The literature review, I'm going back over that. I'm getting there and getting it done. So then I just have to ask my two main peeps to help me correct and to make sure I put all of the good stuff in, because you got to all those little fancy things about where did you get it from. You got to make sure the period and the quotations and everything else are all in the proper alignment. So I'm excited to say that Friday was when I heard the news, and it's only, wait, not Friday, this Friday?
Thursday.
Thursday is when I heard the news, and
it's Wednesday.
And it's Wednesday, and I said to Spirit, do you want me to write this? You helped me really write this one, because I'm not waiting in all those years. And so the next thing you know, bam, here we go. Got that much done, and I even have time to spend with the family. It's important to average out and balance, but my determination was at least trying to get 4 pages a day. And I got a little more than that. I was very impressed. So we play Mario Kart at night, my husband and I and Jen, and sometimes my daughter will get on, and we try to,
we relax a little bit.
Encourage each other, and support one another, and just have fun. And then I also have an exercise bike, so it's funny, because I'll just sit there and, you're driving,
and you'll
right?
pedal faster as you drive faster.
Exactly.
You'll be racing and losing lots.
To me, I'm thinking this is awesome, because I was trying to sit on the couch, and I can't sit back and drive like they can. I can't put my feet up and drive like they can. But I thought, okay, that's it. So I sat on the bike, and the next thing you know, as soon as it goes, and you start to turn your wheel, my legs are just a pedal. I'm like, well, that's okay. I like this. So that's a cool way to exercise. And let's find out what else we need to do. The topic is reality, and it's amazing how I asked 3 questions in the beginning about reality, and this is just an everyday thing that you think you know the answer to. But when you really have to get into it, it's way deeper than you can ever imagine. And this is the stuff I already knew. It's just putting it in an order so that others, will somebody want to read it. So I can see this actually could be in a second book, because I want to put my analogies and all of these things in there about the importance of understanding what is reality, where does it come from, how does it answer it. You remember the movie, What the Bleep Do We Know?
Yes.
That was an incredible movie when I first saw it. Were you here at the time? Not here at my house, but we were here in Lansing, right?
No, I remember being in Berkeley, still in grad school, when the movie was in the theater.
Oh, that's right. So that, there's no way that I would have.
So it was just before, that was 2003, 2000. That was 2004 when it came out.
Because
I'm thinking of...
I saw it, and the next thing you know, it was like it answered all the questions that I've been asking. And when you're spiritually awakening, what that means is that you have just went into another reality realm, different, and this is what we call human mindset and spiritual mindset, because people understand mindset, it's a state of mind. And there's all these different forms of realities, and you get to choose which one. Well, the power of choice seems to be missing. I was reading a little bit further, and I loved Dispenza, and as I'm reading his book, Evolving the Brain, Joe Dispenza talks about how it simply is that we, in a way, and this is also part of my choice of words, we are stuck in our over-identities with what the body is always telling us what to do. It's a survival mode, but our bodies actually take our choice away from our active part. We're the observer. But when the daily living, we get so in the comfort zone, or we get so wrapped up into what we feel, that's when we feel like our rights are being robbed, things are being taken away, and what it is that your body is not, it's not your brain, it's your body. Oh, I don't want to do that. Oh, I want to sleep in. Oh, I want to take a nap. Oh, and it's the whining that the body does, and after a certain amount of time, the body becomes in charge over your own mind. And so the power of choice becomes dictated by the over-identities that the body of the emotions. Now, one of the things that creates the reality to come forth is simply the emotion. You can have all the thoughts you want. It's the chemical peptides from the thoughts that give it life, but when you start focusing as the observer more and more on that thought with the excitement of the emotions, then it becomes born. Whether you have an idea for creating a show, you have an idea of building something, brainstorming, there's all this excitement and energy. And how do you create anything? But what if your body... Go ahead.
Oh, well, I was going to talk about, so the theology that I study, it's a really long story as to why I was studying specific things last night, but I'll just say that I'm creating calendars for my family and looking at the...
Surprise, Mom.
Surprise. But looking at the words and phrases that I want to put with each of the pictures as to what I have as far as nature and how things correspond. So I was looking at fireworks and looking at the chemical construct of a firework and then figuring out, you know, what was going to be the correspondence, if there was calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, oxygen, what was going to be what I wanted to, I mean, it's really in depth. And so, thinking, so then there's the tree, for example, and the different kind, the deciduous versus cone bearing and what that represents. And then there's the sap that's in a pine tree, and the sap actually corresponds to something. And so the vegetation, I've said before that in our theology, the ground, the earth, terra, corresponds to our consciousness. And everything that springs from that relates to our consciousness. So the trees and plants and all that come up from the earth, and they actually have a specific correspondence as to what it means in our consciousness. So then the pine trees represent a certain thing, and they talk about independence. But there's actually the sap means, and the resin inside. Now, if I knew more about the science as to how trees are born and created and how the sap is... they said that it's a fiery thought. So there has to be a fire, there has to be oxygen, there has to be this, how the sun is interacting with the rest of the planet as to bring forth the light, and the sun represents God and our relationship to it. So it's really interesting how things are born. And yes, there has to be that drive, there has to be that will, there has to be that emotion center. You can think about it all that you want, but that emotion has to be attached to it. So I'm coming at it from the theological side to say yes.
But people don't know about Swedenborg, so we need you to do that theological side of Swedenborg. And it's not just about religion. This is not religion. This is the idea of there's a spiritual reality, and that is what Swedenborg brought through. It wasn't just the idea that, here's the book, here's the Bible, this is how you interpret it. He went a little further and showed you the spiritual reality of that Bible, of certain chapters specifically, and was when he started to dive into it, what was he really looking for? The seed of the soul, or?
Yeah, the seed of the soul. That was, so he approached this as a scientist, and Ripley's, as in Ripley's Believe It or Not, has him listed as one of the top 3 people that have ever lived on the planet as far as how much information and knowledge that they had. I mean, he spoke 9 languages, he studied like in all realms of science, but then he got into theology because he wanted to know where the seat of the soul in the body was, and he was one of the first people to link lung and brain function, that you're breathing, the brain and the lung, that's what I mean, not lung and heart, but lung and brain. But yeah, he wanted to know where the soul was in the body, and all of a sudden he had this revelation, and so then from that point it was all it was theological.
I would say yes, he definitely uses more than the average amount of brain.
Yes.
The frontal lobe, which is incredible because your frontal lobe, it has everything to do with reality, and I don't know statistically to give you a lot of proof, but the point is they kept saying that it's not the size of the whole brain, it's actually the size of the frontal lobe, because the more you create with reality, the frontal lobe apparently changes in size. And the frontal lobe is amazing because that is where you start to create reality, is in there. It's the little magic trees, the thoughts, the dendrites, all of the way that your emotions and the way you focus on it. So it's, you know, you've heard me talk about the frontal lobe before. And when the blood is restricted from going in that area, and the main reason is because of stress, any form of stress. The way we define and know stress today, because there's no way to process out those little things, that we have become so auto response system of being, I'd like to say we're immune to stress, but we're not. We have learned to put up with, deal with, we've learned to accept the fact that it's part of our life and that there's no way out of it unless you take drugs and surgery and whatever else that could come up to say, oh, let's lessen the stress. People will tell you, okay, so, well, stop doing that, whatever that is. Well, what if you're taking care of a sick person? You're not going to want to stop doing that. You may want to change a few things out, see if you can get some help and things. But sometimes, you know, I know some mothers that have beautiful children, but their bodies don't know how to function properly, or operate systems are not what the world says is civilized. So there's a lot of extra care that you got to give these children. And there's nothing wrong with them. It's just that they came in with a different operating system. But it gets very stressful for the average person, especially if they're doing it all alone, because your identity of who you were becomes lost and into who you're taking care of and what you're doing. So where am I going with this? The frontal lobe is so used to stress that we are now have it more or less in our DNA that we have to expect to have stress. This is how you pass on the genetics. But at the same time, people then turn to, because they don't know how to process and they know their crap well, they can turn to drugs, alcohol, sex, watching TV, being lazy, sleep too much, anything to do with a spin out or escape. Checking out. They can't be here. And so then you fall victim to what the body is. The body then becomes very habitual and not your brain. Your brain takes and looks at the caudus nucleus and sees how the program is. But because you've done it so long, a particular habit, and this is where then you start to wrestle with, oh, you think I sleep too much? Well, screw you. You want to protect your comfort zone. And your comfort zone becomes your enemy, but you can't see that because it looks like it's caring for you. It's giving you things that you think you're losing.
But then you start isolating yourself because you don't want that comfort zone taken away, so you don't want to let people know your secrets as far as, hey, you know, I sleep till this time during the day or night, and then or I like these games, or yeah, I like to have this drink at night, or you know, I go out and I do this and that kind of. You don't want to share that with anybody because that's your checkout time. And then all of a sudden you start isolating yourself because you don't want that judgment.
Right, and so then it's like, how do you raise children? How do you raise yourself? How do you communicate with others? Because you have to be responsible for some when you're the parent. And yes, their soul knows what they need, but when they fall victim to their habitual habits, then all it does is it takes the power of choice away from the individual. And it's very important to understand that if you do not have your conscious power of choice, then you're a victim, you're a prisoner of your own comfort zone. And yet your comfort zone says, there, I will take care of you. She won't. There, I'll take care of you. And the thing you start to focus on after a while is, when, in my younger days, I couldn't get up in the morning. But I fell victim to my physical body. My physical body said, oh, you want to get up? You want to stay here? You don't get to do this much. And what happens when you start to wrestle with those things, it screws up the values. So the next thing you know, depression would kind of sit in, where I can't get out of bed. Sleeping in is one thing, but sleeping in to the point where you're talking yourself of, oh, well, what's the point of getting up? And then you try to tell yourself, oh, I have all these billion things that I can do and have fun with, but the excitement can't get you to say, oh, I'm going to let it go.
That drive and the motivation, the will to do it.
Because your body is overriding. You know, and that fire and that oxygen, you talk about a foundation, you need the oxygen, you need all of the components to work properly, you know, for that tree to grow. Well, same for our physical bodies. Our physical bodies, and everybody can blame it on food all they want, but it's not that. Everything's a frequency. But when you start to become victim to the fact that you don't know how to process or deal, then your body, you keep passing on from lifetime to children and everybody else. And so this junk DNA really is just the way it's recorded. So when I'm cleaning up the resolution-oriented way of doing things, is that I'm helping the body say, you know what, let's resolve this. And the body will go, you really do? You mean that ache and pain I had from when I was 3, you're listening to me? And the soul goes, oh my God, finally, we can resolve this. And what happens is the energy changes in that area of your body. When you think about trapped emotions, that body part, well, let's say 3 years old, and it could be in an accident. Well, that particular part of your body is going to vibrate at that lower frequency because you created reality to hit that spot. And so every day you wake up, your body is constantly producing that same spot, the same frequency. But there's days you feel good. It's healed. No. Until you get triggered into going into the automatic response system. And the designation of that energy is always there, okay? And it becomes a very much of who's in charge of what. Now, again, when you're sitting there going, oh my God, you know, you're trying to take away my right to read books, you know, because you want leisure time, you value the fact that you have leisure time. We'll come back and talk about this after our break. Thank you. So, I want the importance to understand that your body basically kind of acts like it has a mind of its own, but that is really your subconscious mind. If you talk to Candace Pert, Molecules in Motion, and all these other, your body is your subconscious mind is your body. And the subconscious mind is actually showing you, out of the 41 thoughts, that the thoughts that you don't consciously connect with are being presented and shown in the physical body form. Now, within that 41 thoughts, they are made up of the filters that create and work with the subconscious mind, which is decisions that can become limited, in memories, meta-programs, those programs that are kind of like basically archetypes, and, well, we'll go more into that. They don't want to talk about that. What they want to talk about is, I have to honor them, values. Values are very interesting because if you're carrying not just your own, but carrying the group consciousness of your friends, your family, the bloodline of the values, it will create major conflict in who you are, because your left brain will think values in one way, your right brain will think values in another way. And when you think of really who you are, your left brain controls your right body and your right brain controls your left body. Now, those are two separate realities altogether, because the way that the right brain organizes the thought process is that it is already one. It sees everything. It knows there's one God. That knows that there's this, that, and the other. And it goes from big to detail and detail to big. It is just, it's all one, all at once. And then the left brain has this tendency to how do I want to put it? And right now they got me confused talking in my head. I don't know why we got interference. Because the left brain likes to go into semantics. Like for instance, the right brain will sit there and go, oh, everything is great, and the next minute, oh my God, I gotta take care of this, do this and this and this. It's constantly thinking, and
because it's locked into the details that may or may not be happening. That because what now I'm getting confused. What that reminds me of, what I was going to say, is that because I'm throwing my theological perspective into this, that with the subconscious brain and being human, that our theology teaches that we are dual citizens. We're citizens of the spiritual world at the same time that we're citizens of this natural world where we're interacting as humans, but right now we're creating reality for ourselves in the spiritual world at the exact same time. And so that's how these correspondences were born to some degree, is to understand that a tree is not just a tree, and that a bird is not just a bird, is that, you know, it is existing here and now in this natural world, but it's got that spiritual meaning, and these correspondences are to teach us these clues and signs of living in both worlds at the same time.
So if you really look at it, the tree, out of the 41 thoughts, the tree is the one or two thoughts that you focus on, the color, the leaves, the height, and all this. And the rest of the thought processes, you know, the rest of the 41 happens to be this background story, which she calls correspondences. I say it represents life as, and it has a story of how it became the tree. It has its own little history of how it became the tree.
Yeah, from the acorn or the pine cone or whatever it was.
And it has a set of values and decisions and beliefs that go along with that tree. So it's so important to understand that when you are functioning as a human, you'll probably overlook that tree. But if you function as a spiritual human, you will then begin to understand that the universe and the soul is constantly talking to you, and it actually is a guiding, a GPS system about what you encounter in your daily lives. Where is it that you've stopped making known the unknown? Your comfort zone causes you to stay locked into a frozen amount of time. And your brain has this ability to do this because that's how you become the observer, is that you observe and you look at the particle and you collapse time and you create what you're creating. But sometimes you need to uncreate so that you can release it and let it go. And it's so important to understand that your brain has Hugh, a spirit, is the observer. And if you're looking through these lenses or these illusions and forgot how to pick up a book and read, which is the joke these days, people say, well, we do have books. Their first hard drive was...
It's how you download information into your brain.
That's right, from books. And... No, I forgot where they're going with this. Again, I hear an interruption I have to pay attention to. What is this interruption?
Right, because I keep feeling distracted, like the chat room's supposed to be drawing my attention, but...
Well, okay, so...
There's nothing.
There's that, yeah. I mean, it's all these little nuances and distractions and...
Well, that can be a
glitches.
clue itself, that we pay attention to all these frequencies, but we don't know what they mean, or we don't know how to ask. The main thing a lot of people do is just blame, get stressed, not how to interpret it, forgetting how to fine-tune all this information, that it does come their way all the time. Again, they're not having me pick up where I left off. So, what is going on with this energy and frequency? And it is basically the stomach meridian. It's what I call also the alarm point. When you don't have to be an empath, okay? Everybody has a stomach meridian, okay? And this meridian is that connection with Earth, and when it's disrupted, you feel like you can have jet lag. You feel like you're not connected. You don't feel like you're grounded. But that's not the only one that causes you to be ungrounded. There's other reasons. But the alarm point, that reminds me of what I had felt okay, so I went back to bed about 8:30, and it had to be about 9:30, 10. I can't tell you the time. I just know that I was laying there, and I swear to God, I felt an earthquake. And I thought, it's either we have, because our house, the three sides are built into the ground, so we have three dirt walls, you know, but there's cement and everything else that creates a house. But we have three dirt walls, And sometimes I can feel them excavating, is that the word I want?
Yeah. They're
Over in the gravel
working on
pit.
the gravel pit across the road.
But this didn't feel like it normally does when they're working. This actually felt like a tremor. And my whole body felt like it was shaking as I'm laying in bed.
Interesting.
And I didn't wake up, and I said, well, I'll have to note that because I might have to address it later. Now that's my way of saying I put a little notepad in my head and I noted so that
Your post-it note.
my two Post-its. I invented them.
Marked that time and space.
So all I know is that there might have been something happening, and it could have happened here, it could have happened inside the world, but it was enough that it created a foundation shift that it got my attention. So the observer then had to notice something different. Now, I'm not sure what that is important, but going back to the stomach meridian, if you are a empath, you can't, and if you haven't figured out how the tools how to heal it, or to resolve it, or to help you adjust to your path on this particular empath, is that you will then morph. And what do I always tell you what morphing is?
So, oh my gosh, because I'm so good at it. Also, being an empath is that, so people have an idea or an expectation of who Jen is and what I'm supposed to be like, and then they create that, and then being who I am, I end up changing or morphing into those expectations, even though I may not want to participate, and they may be thinking about the Jen that I can get agitated and yell easily. I can go into party mode. I can go
It's like you absorb their wishes or something.
Very good.
Very good. Exactly. That's what happens.
Their thoughts, they put them out there.
Right, and
that's what they expect of her.
Exactly, and because I'm so good at morphing into that, but being the empath, and also, my past program of wanting that acceptance of, yeah, I'll do that, and it's not healthy because, dang it, I'm transforming. I want to live in, this spirit, this soul that is calling, and I'm awake, and I want to do this, and I want to live out of, this is our calling to live from that place. And then all of a sudden these people, oh no, and all of a sudden go right into what they want. Dang it. It's like, because it's then it becomes self-defeating.
Yes, and another form, before we go any further, hello everybody in the chat room.
Hello!
Yes.
Robert and
all these
June
people showed up.
Yes.
and Octane and all these people.
And
Awesome.
yes,
David,
listeners,
yes. Wonderful, wonderful.
Yay,
okay,
hello.
so we just want to acknowledge them.
Waving.
So,
okay.
morphing
so
is
that's what morphing
huge.
is. That's awesome. These people have that you're fulfilling their wishes.
And morphing can be the fact is that, see, you already conceived it in your brain, and because you've already conceived it, you know that there's a pathway somewhere, and it won't be strange. Now, that's why sometimes it's so subtle when you don't even know that you're morphing. I will know more now. Did you want to talk?
Well, I think a lot of people, I don't know if it's truly morphing, but if I'm in a conversation and people are conservative, I'll kind of, talk about that a little bit. Or if it's liberal or whatever. What I mean?
Do you do it automatically without realizing it? Or do
I
you
don't.
consciously make a choice to shift?
I think more or less consciously making a
Okay,
choice.
so that's more
it's
of
not
the
really
observer.
morphing, it's just,
You're
I guess, being polite
you're going with
and
the
not
flow
rubbing
of
against the grain, yeah.
The social norms.
Yeah.
more part of the morphine is I'll be sitting there
You won't even
typing,
realize it then.
and I won't realize it, and all of a sudden
Because
I
I
will
don't
start to
have that.
become a certain attitude or a mood shift or something will
And
change.
until somebody reminds you, you won't realize it, will you?
I'm getting better at it, and I'll turn around and I'll like, all right, what's going on? Because
Who
I'm
am I
starting
absorbing?
exactly because I'm starting to know the difference between me and the energies that are in my room. So it's just very much throws me off because again, in a behavior mode, I can tell if it's not me. When I was getting angry one day, yeah, I know that my body, me, every part of me knows what anger is. But did I have to really be angry? And the subject that I was angry about, do I need to be angry about it? And then all of a sudden I realized, no, I don't do denigrating. I don't do this stuff. What and who and why? What's the story? And part of being the empath for me is that I basically came here as a way of hope. hope just follows me everywhere. And it's funny, I just realized the shape for hope is a star. Duh. So, but hope follows me everywhere, and it is this part of me that is meant to shine the light on something that would cause you to stay in the dark. Okay, so here's some light. Let's help you pull out of the dark. And if you can't get it, then I am supposed to be the mirror of reflection, and I have to learn to understand what dark you're in if you can't even articulate it. Because if your physical body is dictating that this is the way life is, and you don't even know that you don't have your conscious choice, then the physical body will just take over and go, ha ha ha, is it trying to hurt you? No. It just is in a rhythmic routine. This is my automatic response. This is what I automatically do. And when you feel like that is being taken away, then you will then think and come up with all kinds of irrational, rational behaviors to somehow keep the behavior, to keep the personality. And it's not, they're not bad. I'm so tired of how we divide and conquer. What and who you are is fine. What and who you are is fine, and I still can't believe you did that. Honestly.
What?
I'm sorry. My husband's blocking the camera, so all you're going to see is a big old black spot on the screen. Or a hand or something. Okay. Now, are you done distracting me?
Yes.
Do I have a clue what I was even talking about? Apparently none of you do! Anybody in the room, remember?
I was really engrossed into what you were talking about.
Engrossed so much I zoned you out.
Okay, so I was almost choking. I had to go in the other room for a second because I didn't want to cough in front of the camera all the time. So that's why I stepped over there.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was in front of the camera.
No, good reason. We know the truth. And oh, good Lord! All right, I'm just going to stop. Recapture. The fact is that you become victim to your body. That has a brain of its own because it's a subconscious mind. It is the rest of the 41 thoughts that you're not conscious of. And if you're not spiritually connecting and being in charge with those particular thoughts, then it'll look like from a human point of view, you have a bad habit, you have a personality issue, you have
a
flaw, you have all these things, and that's not true. You are learning, if you look at the mirror correctly, that, ow, my body seems to like this. And it's not that it's good or bad. The question becomes, is it interfering with my spiritual growth? Is it interfering with my spirituality?
And is it healthy? So I think what you were talking about at one point was the divide between right and wrong versus talking about what's healthy.
Exactly. And most of the time I'll just tell you whether it's a healthy alignment or not. It isn't about good or bad, right or wrong, because that's how the separation and the division, and that's the only way the left brain can actually see the story. I was telling this, I don't know what show it was, but when we came down or into the fall or into the illusion, the right brain created a mirror image, which is the left brain, and the left brain is backwards, and so it has to see the reverse of what the right brain sees. So if the right brain sees it as whole and united and connected, then the left brain has to see that it is separated. And as you spiritually get into your reality, that's why I call it a spiritual human, because you're creating a unity, you're coming back to that unity form, and the next step would be you can't just jump from A to Z, you have to take this in a gradual step. So that's why they said, say it's a spiritual human. Because spiritually you're going to learn how to live in this body, and you're going to learn how to have dominion over this body. You're going to learn how to have dominion over your thoughts, and it's not a power control-ish thing. It is getting the power of choice back into your free will, because your free will is even a prisoner in the temple of your body. Because you just don't think it. You convinced yourself based on those feeling attributes. Your brain goes, oh, what's the next best thing to make me feel good? This. Oh, what's the next best thing to top that? This. And so it's trying to stay in a happy way, because our caudate nucleus is so full of fears and stress and limitations, And the brain's going, but I have to get you out of it, so we have to look at the happy stuff. Because those endorphins make you healthier. It makes you stronger. It helps you move. But you also have a defeating moment that's going on inside there, because they're two separate things. Both sides, you're valuing something, but they become the common enemy or a conflict between each other. So, let's take another break and we'll come back. I swear, I'll be back. What was funny is that Scott's throat tickled, and without realizing it, he gave himself a live example of morphine.
Oh, jeez.
That my daughter was standing over there, and
she couldn't get by the camera.
No, she couldn't get by the camera. But we're not. What it was that she was over there and expanding, taking and putting her energy out there, probably just by thinking that, oh God, I wish I could get by that camera. You know, trying to figure out how to get from one side of the room to the next. And
whose subconscious is going to play?
And yeah, what soul is going to help me out, or do I have to sit here? And so his throat started to tickle. Without him realizing it, he had morphed. His physical body started to morph. And so then when he got up to cough, he went into the direction, again, without unconsciously being aware of the fact that this was all playing out. Is there anything wrong with it? No, it's fascinating to me, because this is what happens. Okay? Welcome back, Kata. I don't look at that screen. Okay, so as far as how we do these things, a lot of it has to do with understanding how you as the operator has not just witnessed but recorded those moments that you are observing. Now, we observe it, we take in 4 billion bits of information, and on a conscious level, we can only really comprehend 2,000 bits of information. The rest of it gets recorded. The way we delete, distort, and generalize is very important. But as we take it in, we have our sensory system. And I even created the sensory system. I didn't invent it or anything. I just followed other great healers. But I recorded it as the sensory system accessing. And it simply is understanding that you have a dominancy in the sensory system. For me, many years ago, when I was looking at what is the dominancy, my whole right side was dominant. My right foot was dominant, my right eye was dominant, my right ear was dominant, my right hand was dominant, and it was like, oh, does that mean I'm all right? But no. I'm lopsided, because it feels like, you know, but there's all different forms of combinations of what is right and what is not and what is different. But we'll talk more about this, because you know what I always love? What do I love?
Bacon.
No, getting callers.
Thank you! God!
Yeah, you like bacon too.
I think I asked her a question, she just figured the answer was bacon. Alright, let's take the call.
Okay. Area code 954, you're on the air with
Brenda,
Jen,
and Scott.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi there. Are you taking readings?
Yes, you go ahead and ask away, unless you want a general reading.
Yes.
I had a card that was in my home today, and I don't want to go into details, but see what you pick up around that. There is a financial component, which is a major thing on it.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to have them grab the cards. I am going to just grab my wonderful Hope Therapy sheet. And
I need to switch phones because all of a sudden I don't hear all this.
oh, okay.
Okay, it's an old phone and it's...
You tell me when you're ready.
I'm running out of... Yeah.
Okay, so as I'm looking at, I'll just tell everybody that I'm using my Hope Therapy sheet, and I feel, you know, and we talk about this in my pendulum. I'm using the pendulum to point and listen to the guides. We talked about the stomach meridian, about how it picks up and is an alarm and it's an environment, knowing that something's going to happen before it happens.
There. I didn't catch it.
That's okay, I was just filling in before you came in back.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So like I said, I was talking to people about the stomach meridian, about how it picks up in alarms. And what I'm picking up with her okay, there's a lot going on, so I had to go deeper because all I'm getting is the top surface about how your reaction is, what's going on. I need to go into why did this happen. So I want you to think about what happened today. What happened today? There you go. And now I'm going to just tap into the energy that's there. Why did this happen? Why did the soul project this to happen? It's the same old story. So does this sound familiar to you? What happened today, is it familiar to you? It just seems like it's the same old story.
Well, it's something that hadn't happened ever before, but it was, I guess, a culminating thing.
And then there's something else there. So I'm going to ask, go deeper. And they said,
Are the feelings the same? The situation may
like they just said, guilt popped up.
Right, the situation may be different, but did it trigger a similar response that you're familiar with?
Yeah, because they're going right into the a guilt thing, and a lot of it is I also feel you picking up other people in the surroundings.
And I drew the intention card.
Well, why don't you read that?
Let me tell you what this says here, and we'll see if it makes any sense or not. Deliberate, clear intentions have the power to change your world. Your objectives will be fulfilled at this time. Inspired intentions are like magic arrows shot into the sky. The universe is bringing you a gift, showing you that you are hitting your mark. Recognize that you're not the one who has to do all the work, however. Others help you co-create reality. You connect to the power of your intention, sending it out into the field. Then allow for synchronicity to work its magic. Perhaps the good intentions of others will inspire you to send out beautiful ones of your own. Own the life you want to lead and live deliberately, with clarity and detachment.
So does this happen directly to you?
Yeah, around my home, it's financially related, and fortunately, I had someone around me who was very helpful to me today.
Okay.
Has been helping in some ways, and has been very helpful. So that intention card did have something to say about helping vibration or something.
Yeah, I think it did. Well, as long as you stay steady on knowing that you're going to get out of this, allowing spirit to come in. Here, you pull it up. I can't do it. She just said there was something that said something about the intentionally vibrations. Let me look at this.
Yeah. It was
So deliberate, clear intentions have the power to change the world. Okay, so as you're co-creating reality, it's not, what I'm getting at is this. There's a mystery here because they're not making it easy for me. You may know your story, but they want you to understand the story behind it. There is some very interesting energy in your space. The first thing is the energy that comes up is not even yours. You absorbed it, and it's how you're supposed to respond, by being completely overwhelmed by the whole situation. And it's like you grew up and people were just overwhelmed all the time. So your first response is not even yours, but a learned response that says, I'm supposed to be overwhelmed. You with me so far?
Again, I didn't quite get that.
So when you grew up, were the people in your household, were they overwhelmed a lot?
They had a lot to deal with, yeah, and I guess there was a lot of drama at times.
Okay, and what I'm saying is that you learned that that's how you're supposed to respond to situations. So this is a learned response, and empath-wise, you then pick up other people's energies and you become more overwhelmed so that you can't understand the bigger picture of why something happened. You with me so far?
I am. I'm just having a little difficulty related to, I guess.
That's fine. You have to remember that you've called in. A lot of times we don't remember what our life's like to some degree because it just missed out. Okay? But later when you listen to it, it'll start to make sense. Again, there's a mystery going on, and they're only giving me certain pieces of information. And so I have to unfold the story to find out more intently what they're talking about.
Right.
So as I look, you stay strong with your intention that you already know you're going to overcome this, do what you need to do. And they said that you have a burning question really inside of you about what had happened, and that's another thing that's blocking me from actually understanding more. So do you have a specific question that you want to ask?
Well, I've always been the kind of person that tries to be proactive. I'm just a about everything. I'm not one that procrastinates and lets things slide.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a situation I didn't leave the chance. And it's just, I mean, I did all I could proactively.
Okay.
And, you know, F happens type thing.
Okay.
And it has been corrected, but it has caused a tremendous amount of stress.
Okay, so my card is that I hear is that have I been proactive enough? Will it make a difference? And then I will, the card that popped up says that it says peaks of joy, but in reverse, so go ahead, and then I'll have Jen explain her deck.
Okay, reversed. Do you rely too heavily on your material achievements when you assess how happy you are? Perhaps you'll say, I'll be happy when I meet the right lover / make the right amount of money / reach my ideal weight, and so on. Why wait to arrive at the perfect destination before allowing yourself to experience sheer delight? This is a day for joy. Take a walk, listen to the songbirds, scratch a kitty's head, play with a dog, look at a baby, and be in awe of life, which leads to a true sense of bliss. Be alive, be grateful, and know that happiness is an inside job.
Okay, so the first thing is you've done enough. You're more than enough. You did what you needed to do. Now it is the part of the universe, from what I can see, is asking you to step back because change is going to happen and it needs to unfold. So you're actually in the unfoldment stage. It's like when I couldn't stand these people that constantly were living in our space every single day, and they were mean and crude. They were silver platter people where they were just be nice and stab you in the back. And I asked the universe, how do I change this? And basically I heard, stand back, I'll take care of it. And the destruction of what she and he did, they did it themselves. But it first had to look like I was the bad person.
That you were the cause.
And I was the cause and everything else. But then everything turned around and everybody found out the truth later, what had happened. So it looked really bad for me, but it had nothing to, you know, so bad things sometimes have to happen. This big thing has to happen so it unfolds. So they're saying you're in the unfoldment stage. So you are actually standing back and letting it unfold because things are needing to be pushed and changed. And Jen will tell what card she got.
Okay, so I got the mystery card reversed, and that kind of is befuddling me. But I think that is what the card is supposed to represent, that the mystery may be overwhelming or it's not understood. And the mystery, okay, I will read the mystery card. So the mystery, I think, relates to Holy Spirit, but this marker directs you into the unknowable mystery of your journey. It is the sacred place where all things are created but are not yet formed. Okay, so, and that can be confusing to people, and that's like
so that's
the right
formed.
so that's like the right brain. It's the void. It's dark. And that has been translated as scary, bad, all that kind of stuff. But the mystery is just not being understood right now of the situation. Then I got the cow card reversed, and that's about nourishment, abundance, asking, and receiving. And you asked, and I pulled the card specifically about your question that had to do with finances. So, the ability to be nourished, to live in abundance, to ask, to receive, is not happening because the mystery of how it all comes to pass is not understood. Then you got the serpent card, and again, traditionally, that's been interpreted as negative and bad, and the cause and evil and all that kind of thing. But the serpent in this deck is about knowledge and healing, and so it makes sense that you would be calling in to be able to find some grounding information as to this other information.
So then I asked the question, okay, so why is this financial setback here? And they said, well, it was a way to distract you because there's something else unfolding. It goes back to how it's got to unfold. So my husband's going to read the card I pulled, and it was number 9, Stormfields.
This too shall pass. An uncomfortable chaos is surrounding you. Things that you had left unattended may be the cause of some conflict.
Which is what she said.
Yeah, pent-up energy needs release. Just as a storm in nature must break, for these events occur when the electricity between the opposing forces stirs things up and creates temporary disorder. Not all storms are destructive. Rather, they serve by nature by bringing rain to the ground and wind to the trees, enabling seeds to be widely distributed and continuous growth to be ensured. Just remember that whatever is being stirred up inside you or between you and another will benefit you later. The sun will shine again, and new growth will be observed. Don't be afraid to shake things up a little.
So you understand what the spirit has been telling you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're
It's
safe.
temporary.
Yep.
Something has to happen. It's temporary.
Yep.
And mystery, I guess, right now. How things will unfold.
And according to this, you're safe. You're safe.
Just trying to go with the flow and see.
Yep. That you've done your part according to what
write it
Spirit
out.
said, and that you'll know when the next thing is. So don't go into the old response that you learned that you're supposed to be overwhelmed, because you're not going to be able to see what Spirit's telling you, because according to this, you are connected to Spirit and you are paying attention to the flow. But right now, the overwhelming is causing 80% of the blood to leave the forebrain, and you're not going to be able to connect with Spirit completely to hear the whole story. That's probably one reason why you called in. But they're saying if you just take and do even the healing tool of just placing your hand on your forehead and just thinking about the issue, the blood, you put on a scale from 0 to 10, going, oh my God, and give it a color. And by having just your hand on the forehead and the hairline, the blood will start to come back up. As you're thinking of your issue, the overwhelming will stop, and you will actually start creating the reality differently. Because if you were listening earlier, the frontal lobe creates your reality, and if you got the blood coming up and cleaning out all of those thoughts that don't need to be there, you will then start to create a healthier reality, and that's what we'd like to see that happen to you. Now, in the meantime, you can go to our Healing Tools page and look at all the different healing tools, and there's a thought management. So other people's thoughts will get out of your head, so you don't have to be overwhelmed, so you don't have to act this way. And then there's the golden lasso healing technique, which means I thank you, you use the golden lasso, you throw it out, and you say thank you to bringing in something better than what you know now.